Hi, I'm Lee Weinstein, author of Write Open Act, an Intentional Life Planning Workbook. And what you're about to see is a 90-minute Zoom recording of an overview of our easy-to-use life planning process. You know, we only get so many trips around the sun, and we should all make the most of our time here on Earth. Have fun using my workbook and creating your best life, and I hope this video helps as well. Thanks.
All right, should we get going? Microphone is on. Assume everybody can hear me and we are good to go. Hi, everybody, and nice to see you all. It's been fun watching names come up and people I know and people we don't know. Thank you all for purchasing my workbook, and please have it with you tonight. You're going to need your notes from step one, or as much as of the notes as you did in step one. If you don't have them, you can do that step one later. This is going to be a very hands-on meeting, so get ready for that. Melinda, my wife and partner and co-creator of this methodology, will be our co-host tonight. She's going to be watching for comments in the chat. We've got your video turned off and your audio, so you can have privacy and do some thinking and get ready for this. And we'll have about 10 minutes for Q&A at the end. Have your supplies ready. So the things that we've delineated, but have big sheet of paper and some sticky notes and some pens and extra credit if you've got a yardstick or a ruler. The key thing is to have those supplies ready. And you'll also need to calculate your life expectancy. We've got a little bit of time still in the introductory part of this, if you want to go ahead and do that if you haven't. Otherwise, I'll give you a workaround when we get to that part. And we're going to get a lot done in 2 hours. So here we go. I want to start with a level set for what we're about to do tonight in this session. I love this poem by the great American poet Mary Oliver, The Summer Day. And in it, she says, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" This is about what you want to do in this earthly existence. We want you to have fun tonight and think about what you want out of this life for yourself, for the world, for your community, for people you love and really care about. So our agenda for this evening, we're going to start with an introduction to why a life plan, and then we'll do the 4 steps of Write Open Act, our workbook, starting with uncovering your life wishes. Then step 2, build your timeline. Step 3, turn your timeline into an actionable plan. And step 4, keep to the plan. Again, Q&A at the end, and we'll conclude, and we're going to stay right on time. So what is a life plan? A life plan is a strategic roadmap for you to accomplish the major goals you have in the time you have left. It should be informed by your life philosophy and your values. It's all about your life goals, your hopes and dreams. None of us want to be lying in our deathbed saying, "I wish I would have blank, gone to Paris," for instance. We have plans for everything in our life: businesses, marketing plans, product launch plans, vacations. Shouldn't we have a plan for our life? We should. The answer is yes. Our intention with this workshop is to share with you our life planning process. If you looked at life like a project to manage, knowing time has a concrete start and a concrete finish to get it done in, and time is passing us by, how can we live our lives with intention so that we live our full lives while knowing there are going to be some detours along the way? That's life. Another intention of this workbook, again, is for this to be fun. This isn't about work, and this isn't about one more thing to do. This is about life, your life. For Melinda and me, this planning process has brought us closer together and really created a calm intimacy in our life. Knowing we have a plan, we understand each other's dreams and goals for the future. Some of our life goals are Melinda's, some are mine, and some of our goals together. And while we know we want to support each other And we also want to have fun achieving these. So this has been really a great partnership getting a lot of these life goals done. Having a plan, even if it's not followed perfectly, has been very reassuring for us and has really worked. We've had lots of individuals and pairs and friends and couples use this process. It really changes lives. It's amazing. It's been really satisfying for us beyond our own life accomplishments to see you all alumni doing this work, doing this fun. In this workshop, we'll give you an overview of our 4-step process. Then you'll spend the bulk of the 2 hours creating your first intentional life plan. You'll want to create your life plan after the session and keep continuing creating it using the workbook. And you'll be well on your way after this workshop. This is the beginning of a process also that we hope goes on forever for you. This isn't just for tonight. We hope that you'll continue using this process from here on out. So here's a true story. So this all started one Saturday morning shortly after we were married. I put a 10-foot long sheet of butcher paper on our kitchen counter. And I said, so we spend a little time talking about what we want to do with our lives to Melinda. On the far left side of the butcher paper, we wrote down the current year. We estimated how long we'd live and calculated the year we'd die and put those years on the far right side of the sheet. Then we numbered all the years in between. I had a bunch of sticky notes on the counter and we asked each other, what do you want to do? And that's how it started. This is the original intentional life plan we created. And I'll zoom in a second. So you don't have to squint right now to see what they all say. I'm going to show you. We wrote down our significant events under the years on top. So the years we would turn 50, 60, 70, 80, anniversaries, our kids' graduations and significant birth dates, parents' ages, Social Security and Medicare eligibility years, our expected retirement or rewirement date, as I now like to call it. Thank you, Debbie, who's on this Zoom tonight, and more. So zooming in, you can take a look at the kind of what this plan looked like back then. We started filling out our sticky notes with everything we might want to do in the decades ahead. And then we put out our sticky notes in order by date and year, and then hung the timeline in our guest room wall. Every year since, we've refined this process and updated our plan. And there are a few things we decided not to do that were on our original plan, like climb Mount Hood. But 90% of the things we wanted to do in that first plan, we got done in our first 13 years, which I thought was amazing. Again, zooming in further, here are some more sticky notes and things that we did. One of the things that happened as a result of this is we now live in the eastern Columbia River Gorge on an 80-acre ranch near Duffer. And neither one of us will be laying on our deathbed wishing we'd been to Paris. We went there together and we had some great souffle. Okay, so the current plan. This is what our plan currently looks like, and it's much prettier. Thank you. You can colorize your sticky notes for all different types of things like financial goals. The bright yellow sticky notes on this plan are for our travel that we see coming up. You can do anything you want. This is your timeline to create, and we want you to have fun with it. So one of the delightful things that happened is we took some pictures of our life planning process as it was going on and put them up on Facebook and got a tremendous response. People asked, what is that? Tell us how to do that. They'd never seen anything like that. So we took your advice and we started teaching workshops and speaking. And as a result of this, which has been really rewarding too, over 763 people have been through these trainings. I also went to Powell's after doing these workshops just to see what kind of life planning workbooks there were out there. And there weren't really any workbooks. There were books. Most of them were really thick and they had lots of words and lots of case studies and they were really well-meaning. But who has time to read those things? Most people don't have time to look at all that stuff and read those case studies. They need to figure out how to do this and how to do it quick. And we're going to give you that in 2 hours tonight. So I decided to write Open Act, an intentional life planning workbook, and make it really simple and easy. Sorry. And there is a lot going on in our lives. So a lot of times this sort of planning gets back burner, and we don't want you to do that. So two more things before we dive into step one. First, we were very fortunate that DHM Research did a national survey for us. They're based here in Portland. They're a really excellent survey research firm. And they said, what do you want to ask? And I said, well, I want to find out how many people have an advance directive. And we found out that only 19% of Americans have an advance directive. 26% of Americans have a will. We do have some Canadians on the Zoom tonight, so it's probably similar up there, but maybe you're even more thoughtful than we, probably. 15% have a power of attorney. This was interesting. The largest number of people who have a tool in place was a financial plan, and that was 30%. If you don't have a financial plan, it's never too late to work with a certified financial planner or a wealth management company, which I highly recommend. It was interesting, of that 30%, a lot of them were people 25 to 35, which I was really thrilled to see. So they're thinking earlier about, let's have a plan. On a life plan, we heard that only 13% of people have a life plan. And I would hazard that that's far less than that. I would think it's more like maybe 5 or 10%. Probably some people thought having an insurance annuity is a life plan, which it's not. So you're going to have a life plan after tonight. You're going to be ahead of the game with your new life plan. Kind of heartbreaking, 44% of the respondents don't have any of these instruments in place. And I think it says that we're not really great planners, maybe as a species. If you are a great planner, you got here, this is great. It really helps. So I really highly recommend that you have all of these tools in place at some point. So go back and eventually look at this list and hopefully get some of these other things done. The other thing I want to share with you, DHM allowed us to ask an open-ended question to people who do have life plans, what is the value to them? And I want to read you 4 of our favorites. One said, it's a personal compass which guides me through life. Every time I see my life plan, I become inspired. It gives me energy to work hard to achieve my goals. Another said, it gives me something that I can look back upon so I can see how far along I am and what I need to work on. This one I love, and I found it very touching. When I'm having a bad day, I'll read over my life plan to remind me of the things I should be grateful for. I love that. And then this, most people spend more time planning a 1-week vacation than identifying what outcomes they want to see in the major areas of their lives. I think we're all guilty as charged with that one. And today we're going to get over that. All right. The other thing to share, I love this Mr. Jones watch. It's called the Accurate. And it's an object designed to remind us that life is brief and we should seize the moment. The hour hand says, and I've got this watch right here. The hour hand says, remember, and the minute hand says, you will die. We will. But let's get to work on the workbook. You've obviously all got Write Open Act, and you're going to need this as we get going with these next 2 steps. So step 1, which was some of the pre-work we asked you to do, we hope you were able to get done some or all of the questions here. Some of you I know were not able to do that because of travel and other things, and understand you've got time to do that. If some of you got your obituaries written, that's extra credit, good on you. If you haven't done all the question, that's okay too. Whatever progress you've made will help you as we get ready to build our timelines tonight. What we want you to do in step 1 is digging. And this chapter, which is very short, talks about how to do that digging and what happens as a result of that digging. And I hope that some of your digging or all of it went well. In step 1, we want you to consider your life and your purpose for being here on this planet and what you want to get done. There are 6 pages of questions to mull, and we want you to incorporate those thoughts as you build your timeline tonight or in the days or weeks ahead. I want to share with you that these questions are really hard for a lot of people. I was with a colleague last week who said, these are hard. I've never thought about these things. Most people haven't. That's okay. It's important, though, to step back and ask ourselves what's working in your life and what's not. Many of us have not taken or had the time to consider what our life philosophy is or what's undone in our lives. That's okay, too. You can continue asking yourself these questions tomorrow and 5 years from now, and every year when you recalibrate this life plan. What's making me happy right now? Did I achieve the things I wanted to last year or not? I have to share with you something personal. Our only 1-star review on Amazon, which pained me to no end, was from a person who said, I give up. These questions in step 1 are too hard. I don't even know where to start. And I have to say, I felt really empathetic. I felt really sorry for that person. And I wrote him back and I quoted something that the wonderful Austrian poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote in his Letters to a Young Poet. And I'd said, just let this sink in, allow yourself to live these questions. So here's what Rilke said. Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart and try to live the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books that are written in a very foreign tongue. Do not now seek the answers which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. The point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. So live the questions. What I love about that quote is that some of these answers may not be accessible right now. You can live them in the back of your mind as you're commuting to work, as you're taking a shower or doing yoga this weekend. Let them salivate. Let those questions salivate, because as they salivate, consciously or unconsciously, you will eventually live into the answer. Letters to a Young Poet, read it. It's incredible. Usually in our full day workshops, we ask people working together to take 75 minutes or longer to go for a walk or sit somewhere quietly together with your friend or spouse or partner, and one of you be the sender and the other be the receiver, and then switch roles, and the receiver becomes the sender, and share with your friend or partner or spouse, you can be all three, the answers. What we heard from people, they were just dazzled by taking 75 minutes to talk to their closest friend. Friends really know us. And if you know that person, tell them what they may have missed as they share those answers. It's really powerful. Okay. So obviously, you are all understandably so busy with work and kids and parents to care for and more, and you haven't had a moment to check in with a friend or spouse probably before tonight. You can do that later. This can be an extremely helpful and intimate exercise. I love my friends. They all bust me on all sorts of things or say things I didn't even know I was doing. So talk to people. It's wonderful. We've kind of forgotten some of that in the pandemic. You'll notice in the workbook too, with each of the 4 steps, there are some special tips for people working together as couples about how to be a sender and how to be a receiver and how to reflect. So do look at some of those tips. There are also in the workbook some tips for those of us over 60 and things that we should think about as well. The next part can be terrifying for a lot of people in this digging step, and that's to write your obituary. It can be darn right terrifying to do that. It's really powerful. We had one alumna who didn't want to write her obituary. She said, I want to write a forward-looking celebration of life eulogy that's going to be read at my funeral in Paris. And it's going to be about my life and love for Paris. And I said, well, good on you. That's great. Do it. So write that. But it's important to consider, if I died today, what would I want my obituary to say or that eulogy to read? What did I accomplish in my life? How did I live my life? Did I exemplify my values? And did I get done what I hoped for? I had a really great life. Did I have a really great life when I read that eulogy or obituary? So write it. If If you haven't done it tonight, write it soon and get it out there. It's really an interesting reflection. So now we're going to dive into step 2 of the workbook, and I'm going to go ahead. So step 2, now you're going to create your intentional life timeline with your life goals and dreams plotted by year. It's time to roll up your sleeves. If you've got a nice glass of bubbly something or wine or beer or non-alcoholic, great. This is going to be the heart and soul of this session. All right. So for this, you're going to need to be at your kitchen counter or a table or a desk or on the floor or at a coffee table, ideally with that big sheet of butcher paper or some sort of paper. If you've got some sticky notes, great. That's what we want you to have. This is a sticky note process, and you'll see why as this goes along. Notepads, pens, pencils, Scotch tape, a ruler, or a yardstick to divide up the decades you're going to see in a second. So whatever you've got that you're zooming in on, computer, tablet, smartphone, go ahead and set that up so you've got easy access to your butcher paper, would you? And while you're getting set up and getting that stuff spread out and ready, I'm going to tell you a little story. I'll mention that when I was at Powell's that day, I did find this book by Henrietta Ann Clauser, Write It Down, Make It Happen. And that title is really all you need to know. It's a great title. And what you're about to do is, by writing it down, you're going to be making things happen. There is great power writing things out. And it's just amazing. I'm stunned every time this happens. When you write things down, all of a sudden you are making synchronicities happen out there. Ms. Clauser calls these go incidences and calls them signals and patterns that come to us, which Carl Jung called synchronicities, and others call messages from the universe. And believe me, I believe in messages from the universe. A lot of people have their life plans up here in their head. They've never written them down, but by writing things down, it activates all sorts of things, stuff in our brain, airy-fairy stuff, like I just said, stuff in the universe. It also activates when you walk by your life plan hanging on the wall somewhere in your home, or when others see your plan. So write it down, make things happen. All right, you guys ready to get going on writing your plan? Here we go. All right, so in this first segment, you're going to have about 7 or so minutes. We want you to have your sheet of butcher paper, and what we want you to do now is take those minutes and write down on the far left the current year in the top left corner of your sheet. And then you're going to have some math coming up, so get ready for that. In the top right corner, add your expected death year. So if you've not calculated that, there's the formula for doing that. To get your death year, subtract your current age from your estimated death age, which will give you the number of years you have left. Okay? So subtract your current age from your estimated death age, which will give you the number of years you have left. Add that number to the current calendar year, which will give you your estimated death year. And that estimated death year, we're going to want you to write in the far right-hand corner. And then we want you along the top of your sheet to fill in the years in between the current year and the death year, leaving more space in the first 20 years than the last. That first area on the left, you're going to have a lot more things to do there than on the right, probably right now in your life. Add lines to delineate each decade. We humans go by decades, so use that convention. Melinda loves to use her yardstick to draw the decade lines really straight. So if you've got a yardstick, use that, or else you can redraw your work plan, your life plan after this. Not work plan, it's a life plan, it's fun. Then step back and take a look at your timeline so far and see what you see in it, okay? So you've got about 7 minutes to do that. I'm gonna mute myself and you guys do that. you got about 3 minutes left on this part. I do want to share that. I think it's really interesting to stand back and look at this sheet and see how much time do we have. And I'll never forget doing one of these Funshops, we're going to start calling them. And a 21-year-old person said, "Oh my God, that's all the time I've got left." And I just howled. It's like, oh my gosh, you've got so many more decades than I do. So next, using a pen and not sticky notes, add your ages just under each year, when you'll be 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Write also your parents, children, grandchildren, key ages the same way. So you can see the example. So add those key ages. Okay, now next, we want you to add milestones. So also along the top, anniversaries, work, personal, friends and family anniversaries, birth of your future children, year your children graduate from high school or college, their key ages, probable years your children will marry, probable years of your grandchildren, your child support ends if you're divorced, when you become eligible for Social Security and Medicare. It's between 62 and 70, depending on your birth year for Social Security, generally 65 for Medicare. Your expected retirement or rewirement year, and the year you expect your parents to die. You may want to live closer to them as they get older. So add some of those key milestones. We'll be back with you in 5. And we're almost done with this time period. One thing I would tell you about anniversaries is one year, Melinda and I were looking at our life plan, which hangs on the wall, just on the other side of that wall over there. I'm looking at, and Melinda said, "Oh my gosh, it's our 20th wedding anniversary next year." We had not put that on our life plan, and we wanted to make a big deal of it. Our 25th is just around the corner now. All right, but those anniversaries are important on all sorts of anniversaries that we have in this human life. All right, now comes the fun part. Am I muted? I'm unmuted. Good. All right. So now we want you to go back and look at some of those notes you did in step 1, those ideas, journal notes, other lists you might have handy. And think about what are the big things you really want to get done in this life. Some people call them their dreams or hopes. Things you've always wanted to do, like, go back to school and get a degree, or learn to speak a different language, or take a class to advance my career, or teach overseas. Write them all down. Write as many sticky notes as you can think of. Each goal with a different sticky note. So one note per sticky note. And as many as you can think of. What do you want to do this year, next year, years or decades down the road? Write them all down, especially your big life goals, those bragging rights, bucket listy goals that you can say to yourself and to your friends and more, I did this, we did this. Once you're done writing all those things out on those sticky notes, we're going to have you start plotting them out by year. Place those sticky notes under the year you'd like to see them happen. So write them all out, then start plotting them out by year. And let's get started now. We're going to give you 30 minutes for this part, so to get creating. And I'll talk every once in a while, but I want to get you started and have you start thinking about this. And I'll come back in a little bit here. So I'm just going to show our current plan so you can get an idea of what it looks like and how we've divided things up. Since we don't have as many decades, we've divided things into 5 years. Melinda did that. Ideally, we suggest you have no more than 10 life goals for a year. 10's a lot. You may have 3 or 1. But keep writing those sticky notes and brainstorming about the things you really want to do. It would make life wonderful, fulfilling, connective, heartfelt. One of the things you can do after this session is you can come back and use different colored sticky notes for different things. For travel, we had some people who wanted everything financial in blue. You can differentiate between colors used for yourself, or if you work with a partner or a friend, they could have a different color than you. Think of tonight's timeline as a draft. We've had people do this initial draft and then come back and, really, really make it pretty afterwards. So you can have fun with that for sure. And speaking of making it more attractive, we had one participant who came back and decorated all of her sticky notes with cutout pictures from magazines and things she printed off the internet to make it more visual. So you could be creative in that way too, if you want to have it have pictures. So a couple of people are mentioning that they can't think sort of beyond the next couple of years or 10 years out. And I just want to say that's really normal. A lot of us think about kind of the next 10 years. For years, Melinda and I, the far right side of our butcher paper was just blank. We couldn't think of what was going to happen after 60 at all. And I would just say that's happened in every workshop we've had. So know that some of that stuff will become clearer as the years progress. And also as you start living the questions, what do I want to live like at age 60 or at age 70 or at age 80? So good questions, good comments in the chat. We've got about 14 minutes, more brainstorming, more note-taking, sticky note creating. One of the things we do too, when we're done with our plan for the year, is we oftentimes will tape the top of our sticky notes down, because sometimes they dry out unless you've used extra strength sticky notes. But we like to tape them so we can still remove them and move them if we need to. It's interesting looking at this plan, which was probably done in 2019. We had for 2020, Scotland, Ireland, Liverpool. Well, we all know what happened in 2020, and those have moved down. Those 3 sticky notes are now in 2023. We had to move them. Thank you, coronavirus. Got about 10 minutes. The other thing you can do if you're looking for ideas, in step 1, there are some suggestions in the back of the questions for areas to consider, as well as areas to think about for those of us who are over 60 or are approaching 60. I also sometimes think of Judy Garland and The Wizard of Oz clicking her heels. Like, wouldn't I love to go live in Mallorca for a full year and see what that's like, or move back to New York City for 6 months and go to plays. Just like, what are some crazy things or really fun, amazing things that I just haven't allowed myself to think I've never lived overseas for longer than, just a couple weeks. Kind of fun. On the other hand, we've had some great friends who decided to up and change their entire life and join basically a boarding school system in Africa. They quit their schools, working for schools here in the States, and they went there to work elsewhere. They now live in Poland, and they've been helping with the refugee crisis in Ukraine. And I just thought, oh my God, what a cool thing. They just ditched everything and went and did that. I thought, awesome. Not for everybody, but it was for them. And I believe strongly in mitzvahs and giving back. And I think thinking about too, what can we do for the planet, for people in need, for communities that may not have things that you have access to. So that is really rewarding activity and can really change minds and hearts, including our own. In one of our full day workshops, we had a couple that turned to us and said, what do we do about kids? Do we want to involve our kids in this? And so they actually plotted out, thinking about color coding sticky notes. They colored out some family events that they were going to do, but then they decided not to write what those were. They just wrote down blank, family event, because if they wrote down trip to Disneyland, they realized all of a sudden their kids would see that and hold them to it for that year. But it's an interesting thing to share this with younger people who may be in your life, so they can sort of see what you're looking at, or family members can see, hey, looks like, our kids could be going off to college next year. And we're going to be here with their sibling. And what is that going to mean for that sibling? So it's interesting to think about families seeing this, as well as friends. We have our life plan is out in front of our guest bathroom, and we'll have a dinner party here. And I'll never forget our son-in-law walking in the room saying, "Lee, are you really going to climb Mount Hood?" And I said, "I'm not really quite sure, Steve." And I did move that sticky note away from the year it was on and put it into a nested area where we keep our sticky notes that we want to look back on that we may not be wanting to do either immediately or ever. But it's fun, the things that these life plans provoke in guests and family members and friends. So a question from Julia asking about what goes in the nested area. If you've got a goal up here for several years you haven't done, we'll talk about what to do with those and how you might activate them. There may be some things that you just decide to move. Melinda and I were just looking through this past plan, and one of the things that we saw was trip to Rovno. We're not going to be doing that. That's in the middle of the Ukraine. That's where my family emigrated from in the 1890s. It's a danger zone now. So we're probably going to either move that down on the timeline, or we're going to nest it, and we'll see if we do that. In our full day workshops at the end of this period, we had what we called the life plan walk, and people got to walk around and see each other's life plans. And unfortunately, with this mini version, we're not doing it, but it was really helpful to look at different people's life plans. And Elizabeth just is asking, is there a way we can do that? And maybe we can do that on social. I might, in our next e-newsletter, ask people if they want to do that. It is fun. It's exciting to see what other people are thinking about. Yeah, at the end of our life plan, Debbie, we have self-farm ? We've been debating for years, do we just up and move to Hawaii? Or maybe we shouldn't do that, because maybe that's not good for Hawaii to have that happen for housing prices and other things. So we're debating sort of what that looks like. We might move to a college town where there are great classes or volunteer activities. like a Walla Walla or an Ashland. So we're considering all sorts of things. Okay. So let's wrap this part up. What I would say to you now is this is not over. And I think that some of the prompts and questions you're asking in the chat are exactly right on, which is, I can't think of all the things right now, or I need some inspiration. So I think that's a really good thing to put into process. And there are some things on the inside covers of the workbook, some prompts there about ideas. And I'll see if we can prompt each other to share some more things here and have some dialogue. We do have a Facebook page and an Instagram. That could be a fun place to share some of that. So what I want to do now is say, congratulations. You've started building your life plan, and that looks great. And I'm really thrilled you were able to get going. You're going to hear me say for about 400 more times before the next hour is over. When you're done with this process, either tonight or after you've made your plan even more designy and pretty, we want you to hang your intentional life plan somewhere convenient in your home. We want it to be somewhere so you will look at it as you move around where you live. Melinda and I walk by our life plan on the way to my study every day. We see it. It's a visual reminder that you have a plan and of your life goals, and it's incredibly powerful. So that's one of many times I'm going to say that again and again. But now we're going to move on to step 3. So step 3 is looking at how do you get further clarity about achieving some of these life goals. We want you to have a precise understanding of the steps you need to take to convert your life goals into actions. And we'll introduce you to a flexible, easy to use action plan to turn your plan into reality. You all know about New Year's resolutions and what's happened to New Year's resolutions. They don't work. So how do we turn these life goals into things that actually do work? So to begin with, we wanted, and there's been some stuff about this in the chat too. We want to get some clarity to begin with about what's the difference between a life goal on the left here and a life wish on the right. So some sticky notes that you've written down are truly bragging right life goals, like build a studio in the backyard or a trip to Spain. Others are more lifestyle wishes, more along the lines of how you want to live every day. For instance, having more quiet space in your life, do less, sit less, move more, cook more, be outside, be healthy. We suggest you take those sort of more lifestyle wishes and put them on a separate piece of paper and hang those actually next to your intentional life plan timeline. What you see on the right is more of Melinda and my lifestyle wishes now. So what we've come up with is, about our lifestyle generally and how we want to approach and live our life daily. We want to be more creative. It's where we think the magic happens. We want to be more playful. We don't do nearly enough playing when we're working. And now that we're rewired, we can be more playful. We want to learn. We want to be constantly learning and challenging our brain, engaging with interesting and diverse people, with younger people, and learning. And we also want to be more healthful. And my friend Bob wrote this, and we took it from him. We're at a point in our life where we have both the time and need to take better care of ourselves. So those are sort of our lifestyle wishes right now. And you can see that some of our values is we want to savor life, we want to love life, we want to have more variety, vital, we want more vitality, we want to nourish our lives, connect, have purpose, currency, and we also just want to be. Some people like to do, and I'll take the blame on that. So we keep this in front of us, and we look at it all the time. And what's interesting about just having those lifestyle wishes is they just start to seep into our daily rhythm because we see them out there and we know that's what we want to do. Or sometimes it's a prompt. And Melinda say, hey, you want to walk to the mailbox? And walk to the mailbox here is 1.5 miles one way. So it's a great way to get out and one of us prompt the other. So turning your life goals into action. I want to read you this quote. It's written by a very inspirational speaker and author, Greg Reed. And he writes that a dream written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. A plan backed up by action makes your dreams come true. I love that quote. And that's exactly what we're going to do next. Thank you, Greg. So action planning. I'm going to talk a little bit about what goes into this. Again, we'd like you to have 1 to 10 goals a year. And again, you may just have 1 this year, or you may have 3, or you may have 10. We had one Portland couple attend a workshop over in Northwest Portland a few years ago, and they literally had 27 goals for the next year. And I looked at them, I'm like, that's pretty big. That's a big undertaking. And what was so much fun about both of them is about 8 months later, I saw her and she said, Lee, we got them all done. And I just thought it was so great for them that they were able to do that. But I would say that for most people, 10 is a lot because we have a lot of other things to do. And if all of your goals are completed in a year, you can certainly move future goals up. Or if you need more time for goals in the current year, you can move them out. That's why they're on sticky notes. They can be moved. So one of the key things, and I think one of the reasons why New Year's resolutions never work, is that goals can sometimes be amorphous, lofty, or hard to accomplish. Where do you even start? And that's why we want you to first, obviously to look at what are lifestyle wishes versus life goals. And now what we want you to do with those life goals is try to make them SMART goals. So management gurus Peter Drucker and George Strand years ago developed the SMART goal filter to help people evaluate their goals and refine vague or ill-defined goals into ones that can be more easily accomplished. So ideally, your life goals will become SMART goals. And you can see their formula there on the bottom left. Specific, is your goal well-defined? Measurable, can you measure your progress toward the goal's completion? Achievable, can you really achieve this goal? Or is it too lofty and you may need to rejigger it? Relevant, is it realistic? Is it relevant to you? Time bound, when are you going to accomplish this goal by? So set yourself a deadline. And some goals may require more time, some less time. So I'm going to share with you something that's a little personal, but I had on our goal for many years, Lee loses weight. And that was a life goal. It was not a SMART goal. And then I changed it to Lee loses stomach, thinking if I embarrass myself, I'll get on it. It didn't work either. I had to convert that into a SMART goal, make it specific, measurable. So this was last year, I said, I want to get down to 160 pounds, achievable. So how am I going to do this? That was a head scratch. And then back to synchronicities. My friend Jonathan shared on Facebook that he had used the Noom app and it was really worked for him. And here's a discount code. And so I decided, what the heck, I'm going to sign up for Noom and see if it works. And they had some really effective coaching in their application. And they taught me a lot about what to eat and high density calories. And so I started eating differently. I made it time bound. I gave myself a year to lose those poundage. And what was amazing is not only did I lose weight, I lost 20 pounds and I did it in 6 months. And it was thrilling. But again, Lee lose weight is not a SMART goal. It's an amorphous goal. It's what most people write down and we don't get it done. So highly recommend it. And Noom isn't for everybody. It certainly worked for me. I loved it. Now we're going to show you a little bit about action planning and how to, once you're starting to break down those goals into steps, those SMART goals into steps, how to do that. So it's really important to take your goals and analyze them and say, do I need to, is this just one step to get this one goal done, or are there many steps? So it could be 1, 2, 10, 40. You'll need to take them to make them happen. And this example that's in the workbook of Ezra and Kathy show, and the tool, you've got some blank pages you're free to copy and use however you want. What Ezra and Kathy did with their goals is they broke them down. They put 3 goals up here and broke them down by quarters. So for instance, on the left, they have repair living room. And in their first step, they wanted to research contractors, and they were doing this as a pair of friends. So Ezra was going to do that, or as a couple. And then Kathy was going to clip magazine articles and search Pinterest for ideas. In step 2, they were going to interview contractors, seek bids, and check references. And they broke some of those steps down further, who was going to do what. Step 3 was sign a contract. Step 4, choose paint colors. Off to the right, so those are all in Q1. You may take this sheet you've got, and if you've got a big one that requires a lot of steps and a lot of time, use the entire sheet or use 2 sheets. In step 2 that they've got sleep in a treehouse, and you can see how they've delineated they're going to do that. Or step 3 and Q3, they want to sign up and take a Korean class. So again, how do you want to break those things down into action steps? So the first step to getting anywhere is to decide that you're not going to stay where you are. I love that quote. So what we want to have you do in just a second now is to take one of your goals for this year or the year ahead and break it down into steps. A lot of times it's a multiple step thing to remodel your house, for instance. So in step 3, we want you to create a prioritized, actionable plan to realize your intentions, a plan that you're going to start using from here on out. What steps do you need to accomplish each goal or task for the coming year? What's the first, second, third, or fourth step? What will you do? What will your partner do, or friend, or who can help you? You may need a friend to help you do this. So what we're going to do now is take 5, and for you to take one of your life goals right now and break it down into steps using the chart on page 90 of your workbook. So you can see we've got some blank pages back here, page 90. Take 5 and break down one of your steps. Again, it could be multi-year, could be multiple steps, could be this quarter, which is January, February, March, could be next quarter, April, May, June, etc. Okay? Okay. Thank you for working on your action steps. Did you ever see the movie What About Bob? It was a very funny and strange and slightly grating movie. And do you remember the baby steps that the psychiatrist kept telling his patient? Take baby steps, take baby steps. Well, they work. What I would tell you about the room that Melinda and I are sitting in is we had this room for 10 years. There used to be a wall right here. And it took us 10 years to get to remodeling our kitchen. But once we decided we wanted to do it and we started making those first small steps in place, the rest really flowed. So if you think about that one first baby step, and it'll really start making things happen. It'll lead to the next and to the next, and soon you're in motion. It's kind of like the flywheel in the book, Good to Great. If you can just start getting it spinning, get those baby steps moving, it happens. We also want you, though, to set reasonable expectations. We know your life is busy enough with all your daily duties. You've got lots going on, work, getting kids to and from places, estates to settle, taking care of loved ones, and frankly, unexpected things that happen. Someone may get sick or die, people may lose jobs, and there might be a global pandemic. Whoever would have thought? But try to set reasonable expectations so you'll be able to achieve what you've set out to accomplish. Make it reasonable. Come back after this session and prioritize your life goals for the coming year. Build action plans if you need them for the goals that may require multiple steps or quarters or years even. Focus on the milestone bragging right life goals that, when you look back a year from now, will have made a difference in your life and possibly again for the world or your community. How many goals are there? If you have more than 10 goals for this year, that's probably too many. So as I've said, move that, maybe some of those to the next year. And again, make your life goals as realistic as possible. Make them SMART goals, time-bound and actionable. And I'm sorry if I froze on my example, but for me, setting a goal, a target weight, having an app which made it more reasonable, and setting a time limit, how long I wanted to take, which the Noom app allowed me to do, made it all happen. I lost 20 pounds, which was incredible. Okay, so onward. Well done. So I want to share with you a sort of a crib sheet that Melinda and I use. It's kind of our desktop timeline. And what we do here is we've taken our intentional life plan, and you can see our lifestyle wishes at the top to be healthful, creative, playful, learning. But then we started breaking down our goals for this year into quarters. So at the very top, and I'm not going to read all of these for you, we had things like care for our moms, monthly dates, us, Europe trip, book flights, hotels. Melinda took that, and that was a step. That was an action step. Purge all closets. That's a Melinda goal. The little symbol is off to the left. What we have with the O means in progress. So it's happening. The X means it's done. The ones that don't have an X or an O by it means to us, those are things we need to get after. We'll talk when we meet at our life plan every month and say, how's that going? How's the purging of all closets going, Melinda? She purged half of them last year. And oh my God, you should have seen this room. It was beautiful. But I've got coming up on Q1 still, and we had a discussion in the car last week. Now that Europe is booked, I need to book our restaurants and start doing some other research. So again, we break things down by these quarters. I'm a little more nerdy than Melinda is, but we talk about all of these things as they are happening. So what else do I want to say? This crib sheet, though, really works. You may have a future life goal that takes more years to accomplish, by the way. So break that down into action steps over a longer period of time. We work together and help each other too as we look at our life plan. And Melinda will say, hey, what do you need to get after that, Lee? That's lovely. It's not a blaming thing. Lee, did you do that? No, it's like, hey, what do we need to do to get after that? Which I love. Incorporate your intentional life plan goals and action steps for the year into whatever daily, weekly planner that you may have. Put it on your calendar or your task list. I like having it multiple places. We keep our life goals, but not our action plan, on our intentional life plan timeline, so we can see those 5 to 10 big life things we want to accomplish. We keep our action steps on this desktop crib sheet version you see there. I want to keep all of these things readily available and easy to find and review. So I keep our yearly goals, other places I use to manage my life and tasks. So I have a photo of our current life plan in my phone, and it's also in my Google Docs, and it's in my things to-do list as well. So if Melinda and I are out to dinner and we're like, okay, we want to talk about our life plan now, or what's going on with that, we can do that. Oftentimes too, what's really lovely is we'll pull it up and talk about what we've done so far in our life plan. So, last year we had more couple dates, and we're continuing those. We want to see people, we want to get out. That's really important to us. Obviously, you want to make it as simple and easy as possible to look at your yearly life goals, so they're not really that far out of your mind. And again, always have your intentional life plan hanging in your home. We should have a bell for that. On some of your more complex life goals, you may not know where to start. And I would just want to say, that's okay. A project may seem overwhelming. You may never have done some of these things before. If you've never developed a budget, maybe start with research or meeting with a financial planner, or talking with a friend, or asking your Facebook friends about the best approach to develop a budget, or look up at your junior college or community college. They probably have a personal financial class or an investing class. If you've never remodeled a kitchen, consider the layout of your kitchen. Clip ideas from magazines. House.com is a great resource, or Pinterest, or go to a showroom and look at cabinets. Talk to some friends that just did their house. Then create a sample budget, research and meet with contractors, and develop a project schedule. Whatever your goal, think through what the first, second, third, or fourth steps might be, and start plotting that action plan out. And if you can't figure it out, ask for advice. Then build that action plan, and know that everything gets easier with that first step. And I can't underscore this enough. Just that one step, when you just start taking that one step, it just starts happening. And it's amazing. It's kind of like activating the universe. It activates the steps. So the key thing is to break down each goal into small, achievable steps. Make them small, bite-sized. I'm going to mix the metaphors here so you can begin taking action. So the last step in this methodology is, how do you keep to the plan? Now you've got an intentional life plan. You're going to finish that this week or month, and you've identified the action steps you need to take to realize your life wishes. How do you stay on your plan and make sure it materializes? Some of us may not be able to get it to materialize immediately. So I want to share with you, this is a fun story. I saw this meme, which shows what someone planned and then what actually happened. And this wonderful woman named Julia Gamelina actually invented this. I tracked her down on Google and tracked down the author of this meme. She's a publicist who works for a prestigious architectural firm in New York City. And I said, can I use your meme? She said, yeah, go for it. So I sent her a life book, and she loves it. She's been using it ever since. So you've got tons of daily to-dos at home and at work. That's called life. That's the right side of this meme she designed. But those regular tasks and responsibilities can get away of your accomplishing those life goals. Plus surprises and unexpected adversities get in the way, which I've listed before. What's key in this intentional life planning process is having that strategic linear plan over here, and that tactical formula to bring you back to your vision, and help you focus on what's important to make it happen. And you saw that one person who said in that answer about why she liked her life plan is it gave her, when she had a crazy week or quarter or awful year, she was able to come back and look at that life plan and what she's gotten done so far on it and what she's dreaming about for the future. And it inspires her. So, plan to reality. Here are some things that we suggest to you to turn your plan into reality. First, I know, hang your intentional life plan someplace visible where you live. As I've mentioned, it's important to display it someplace where you're going to see it, where you pass by frequently, and see it throughout the year. Don't hang it somewhere. If you're not going to go to the basement this year, don't put it down there. We want you to see what's coming up in the next 5 or 10 years, the next 3 years. Big warning here. Don't roll up your plan and put it in your closet and never look at it again. We've had people do that. It breaks my heart. You've got to hang it up, and it really is important. Truly, one of the best things about this butcher paper plan is the visual nature of this tool. We are visual creatures. That's how we started communicating. All those paintings and things we painted in caves way back when, before we got language. If you read your intentional life plan regularly, or even just notice it out of the corner of your eye, it will have a subconscious impact. It really does, folks. You can't believe what we hear from people about what they do with this. Melinda and I once tried early on with our life plan to put it into an Excel document. And I bet you can guess what happened. It didn't hold a quarter of the power. Because it was, buried somewhere on our computer, we couldn't find it. And it just did not work. So it's easy to forget about this thing. And we've had friends that wrapped it, literally rolled it up and put it in their closet. And that doesn't work. You need to keep these. Think about all the art or photos you've got, the beautiful photos, the beautiful pieces of art you've got in your house. Your life plan, your life is a work of art. So it should have as much value as that painting or that IKEA print you've got up in your wonderful house or apartment. So another interactive part of tonight, in just a second, we want you to create a monthly life goal review appointment with yourself, or it could be with your friend, or it could be with your partner or spouse. And we've had friends do this appointment together. I'm not going to name names, but some of you know, I know some of the names of the people on this Zoom. You know these two people, and they call each other every month still 10 years later to see how they're doing against their life goals, and also to cheer when they complete one. So what we want you to do is, with these yearly life goals and action steps, is every month take 5 or 10 minutes. It does not take long to go over and look at your plan and make a date for yourself to stick to it. I will tell you that Melinda, who I'm looking at right now, she has a cat in her lap, wanted our check-ins to be fun and not like work or something that she had to do. She wanted something to be look forward to. So we sometimes meet in bed, and I'll bring that picture on my iPhone over and we'll talk about it there. Or we'll go out to breakfast and we'll talk about our plan there. So think about that, when you're going to do it. Again, friends working in pairs, you can call each other and talk on the phone about it. And you can also, as friends, offer assistance to each other, or help a friend walk through something that may be challenging and getting that thing done. And again, look at those couple advice pieces in these sections, because you don't want to be pointing fingers at your spouse or your life partner and say, oh, what are you doing to do this? No, this is about friendship and helping each other here. We want you, again, to review your action steps and your life plan every month, and it doesn't have to take long. Time's a passing. This is about your life. So right now, take 30 seconds and book your monthly recurring life plan date. Get out your phones. You've got your calendar there. Book the date. If you're going to be doing it with somebody, send the invite to that person. You can change it. If that time isn't going to work, you can change it after tonight, but book that date. I would tell you, Melinda and I meet on the other side of that wall once a month. And it is so much fun to look at the goals we've got coming up. We look at the goals, not only for this year, but sometimes we'll look a year or two ahead. We check those goals off that we've completed together. She holds the pen, then I get to hold the pen. So it's because these are both our goals. Some of them are ones together, some individually. So book that appointment, and it's fun. This is a fun appointment. It's a date. Okay, so the other thing I would tell you is consider sharing your life goals and action steps with friends and family. Sometimes there's great power that can be derived from just talking out loud with friends and family about what you aim to get done. It can also be fun when people ask you about your goals, and how you're doing, and what ones you've gotten done. It's really been lovely to have family members involved in some of this. Sometimes that could be a little difficult. I understand. Keep a list of your new ideas to add to your plan as they cross your mind. I use Siri all the time. I'm driving into Portland and I'll say, hey, Siri, add reminder. Talk to Melinda about Martha's Vineyard. And so when we meet at our monthly time, I'll bring in a list of things I may have thought of as I've been out for a walk or driving. And before I put them up on the life plan as a goal, we'll talk about it, because she may or may not want to go to Martha's Vineyard with me. Hopefully she will. On the other hand, some of these goals may be just for me. Melinda is not going to probably go whitewater rafting. I want to go do the mouth of the Deschutes one of these days. That's fine. We can do separate things. So the last, number 4 is have a yearly calibration day. Set aside a half day each year to evaluate your intentional life plan overall. We take New Year's Day or a day or two after at the start of the year to review the year that was. We go back and look at the prior year and update our intentional life plan for the coming year. It's an annual ritual. Oftentimes we'll go back maybe every other year, every third year, and we'll look at those questions in step 1. Or I'll just turn to Melinda, who is more of an introvert. I'm the extrovert, obviously. But I'll say, Melinda, how's life? Are you happy with your life? Are there things I'm doing that are driving you crazy? And I'll just give her time then to speak, and I'll shut up. Because sometimes it takes a little bit more time for her to feel comfortable and answer those questions. As you recalibrate, move and nest some of those sticky notes, nest those ones that may not be a priority. I try not to throw away, to Julia's question, throw away sticky notes unless it's really like, okay, that's over. We're really never going to do that. But I love nesting them because sometimes there's an idea in there that that either we're going to want to take, or maybe it's evolved. Again, this is your life. If you're not going to go to France this year, great, move that life goal years out. If you're not going to learn ukulele, again, maybe you nest that at the bottom because you might change your mind when you move to Hawaii. Take time to celebrate what you've accomplished. We don't do that enough as human beings. My best friend from high school is a guy named Michael, who is the ultimate curmudgeon. And he saw all the check marks on our life plan that we shared on Facebook. And he laughed and he sent me a note saying, look at all those things you've checked off and accomplished. And for Michael to give me kudos on that, I thought that was very high praise. We human beings can be so critical, moving on to the next thing in life or in work without reflecting on the progress we've made. So take time to pat yourself on the back, pat each other on the back, salivate, open a box of cookies and have a bite. We put a check mark by each goal, sticky note, as we get them done, keeping it readable so it's legible. Sometimes we'll come up with a crazy idea in the middle of the year. I'll share this story. Paul McCartney was going to be in Vancouver, BC, was not in our life goals, but oh my God, to see one of the last 2 living Beatles, we decided to chuck everything, spend a bunch of money and go to BC and do that. And we wrote that down as a life goal because we want to remember. Okay, so it's amazing, Beatle fan here. It's amazing to go back and review your desired intentions and what you've already accomplished also. So it's fun to go back and look at the past 4 years or 5 years. And again, finally, be mindful of your lifestyle wishes. Are you aware of them? How are they going? Have that other sheet next to your timeline. Some of those lifestyle wishes maybe become a life goal. Maybe you need to make it a SMART goal. Maybe you need to, if you're not getting after it, maybe you need to evaluate that a little bit differently. So if you fall off track, actually, I'm going to change that to say when you fall off track. We will all fall off track. That is called being human. Sometimes life really does get in the way. Sometimes we don't accomplish the things we intended. Sometimes, things get in the way for a year or several years. Could be health, could be mental health, could be lots of things. Every year, I may have a goal or 2 that I don't realize. Last year, I had go to New York. We didn't go to New York. as a travel goal. So we moved that forward, and we'll be going there in October, Julia. So we had a lot going on this year. If that said, if you've had take a class as a goal for several years and never got to it, perhaps it's time to evaluate that goal. Is it a SMART goal? Maybe it's no longer important to you, or maybe it's something you might do in a future decade, or when you're getting rewired. I had take a class for a long time and talk about synchronicities. The pandemic happened. I found out I wanted to write a memoir, and there was this wonderful woman teaching an online memoir writing class. So I took a class online, and Melinda turned to me at one point. She said, "Lee, you took a class." And that was a synchronicity. It was amazing. So move your sticky note later in timeline if you need to, or nest it if you change your mind, or decide maybe you want to do it later. If something is really blocking you, think about doing some journaling about it. They call it cognitive journaling. And a friend of mine is on this Zoom right now, and she knows all about journaling because we did it in 7th grade. Journaling can help you write around a topic or an issue. I did it this morning with a challenge that I had. So you might want to do that first. You could talk to a friend, which is really important, talking to people. You also may want to enlist a professional. You may need a licensed clinical therapist to help you, or a consultant who knows more about, say, writing a memoir, or join a group or take a class. There are so many wonderful groups out there you can join on Facebook and elsewhere. So I'm going to read you something that marketer and author Seth Godin reminds us about the importance of not giving up. I'm going to read this a little more slowly. Can you imagine how difficult the crossword puzzle would be if any given answer might be, there's no such word? The reason puzzles work at all is that we know we should keep working on them until we've figured them out. Giving up is not a valid strategy, because none of the above is not a valid answer. What's possible, Godin asks us to consider. As soon as we stop denying the possible, we're able to focus our effort on making it happen. As soon as we stop denying the possible, these things are possible, we're able to focus our effort on making it happen. Again, you may need some help to get at some of these things. There are lots of people and resources out there. Just ask. Okay, now we're done with the 4 steps, and I want to leave you with a couple of inspirational quotes, if I may, before we jump into the Q&A. Oh, I'm not going to show you that quite yet. There's a quote coming. So this first quote is from one of my favorite movies of all time, 1971's Harold and Maude, a dark comedy about a 79-year-old woman and a 20-year-old man who fall in love. I saw it 37 times in the movie theater in high school, and it got me through high school. Harold tells Maude he's never lived, and he died a few times, to which Maude responds, "I understand. A lot of people enjoy being dead, but they're not dead really. They're just backing away from life." And then Maude says, "Reach out, take a chance, get hurt even, but play as well as you can. Go team, go. Give me an L, give me an I, give me a V, give me an E, LIVE, live. Otherwise, you got nothing to talk about in the locker room." And she slapped him hard in the shoulder. So I'm going to tell all of you who are with us tonight, and Melinda and I are so happy to see all of you, you have an opportunity to live, and it's wonderful you're here taking part in this training. You're on your way to living your life with a capital L. I hope this is the beginning of a fun new journey for you, one that enables you to live with greater purpose and meaning. These life goals you have every year, they're your locker room bragging right goals, as Maude would say. Stay focused relentlessly on your life goals. Be strategic. It's the big things that matter. New ideas will arise. That's great. Write them down, put a sticky note up. The key is to listen to your inner calling and to actualize those dreams as they unfold. Know too that small steps made consistently over time can lead to big changes. A future goal of buying a house or doing something else in 5 years, for instance, may seem impossible today. But with a financial plan and staying on track with your life plan, it can happen. You can buy a house. We've had people do that, and it's been so gratifying. We've had people quit jobs, sing in jazz clubs, start whole new careers, get married, move to New Mexico, visit through the Panama Canal, and so much more because of these intentional life plans. These really work. So while days can be full of repetition, and sometimes we will hit walls, always know there are endless opportunities to do things differently, to reinvent, to rewire. Remember, writing things down and hanging your plan in your home makes things happen. You are activating your universe. Stay true to yourself and to your life wishes. So this is the other quote. Casey Musgraves, one of my favorite alt country singers, says, "Say what you think, love who you love, because you only get so many trips around the sun. Just follow your arrow wherever it points." So with that, we're going to do some Q&A. We're happy to answer your questions. Please add them to the chat. Melinda's going to read some off here, and I'm going to repeat some to make sure you hear them. Any questions? By the way, I will send the link out to this presentation in the next week or so, once I've had a chance to look at it and make sure it lives up to what I want it to. Go ahead, Melinda.
There's a lot of people appreciating the session.
Great. You can also feel free to email me. You all have my email address. So don't hesitate if you've got a question to ask me privately if you'd like to. What we'd like you to do, any question?
There has been a couple of questions about sharing some of your goals.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel comfortable, if you could on the chat, just go through and share some of your, top 3 or 4 goals so that everybody can see what you're thinking and maybe get inspired by what you've got planned.
So if those of you here want to enter in on the chat a couple of your goals, know that this, please keep each other's goals private, because some of these may be ones that you don't want getting out. I had quit at Nike on my life plan, and a couple of people that worked for me saw that in my life plan from afar. It's like, you're going to quit? But we did quit, and we started a whole new business, and we sold a business. So what are some of the things we're seeing, Melinda?
Renew my passport, travel to Europe, student loans, get those paid off, help my kids change their name and gender markers, travel to Portugal, be ready to downsize, be debt-free, paint the condo, climb Mount Rainier, teach 6 mindful workshops, live half-time in the mountains, expand the house by 2025, plan a gap year when the youngest goes to college, get a caregiving policy passed in my state, go back to school, spend 3 months in Italy and take a cooking course, take a cocktail making class. I'm going to join you, by the way. Learn to swing dance, write a book. These are all great.
Oh, I want to join 80% of those. Those are fantastic.
Join a choir, get a master's degree.
Melinda's reading.
Let's see, not a goal, but still lost about how much of the plan should be yours as an individual and how much should be shared. Do you and Melinda have individual timelines with goals?
Good question. So Melinda and I have a shared timeline, but we have our personal goals, and we will color code things that are separate. So I'll just give you an example. My friend Chris wanted to go motorcycle in Patagonia. His partner in no way, shape, or form wanted to do that. He had his own sticky note with a color for what he was going to do there. Another thing I want to just call out too, thinking about past people who've done this, we had one person join another workshop we did in Portland, and her husband absolutely refused to take part in this. He's like, this is your plan. You develop your own plan. I'll take a look and see what you come up with as part of that, and see what I think. And we know that there are people of whatever gender or no gender that have different points of view about these plans. My cousin in no way, shape, or form ever wants to have a written plan. But one of the things that was just so gratifying, well, with this person, she said, what do I do? And I said, well, develop your own life plan and take it home and hang it on the wall. And he'll have an opportunity to look at it, review it with him, and tell him what you're thinking of, that you want to do. And she's like, okay, we'll see. And I want to share another example I just thought of. But what was so lovely, I'm going to try not to cry. But literally last year, I got a letter in the mail, and all it was a picture of the two of them at the Panama Canal. And that's where she really wanted to go, and they both had gone. So you can activate people. So some of you may have some friends that are sticks in the mud and don't want to do this. That's okay. But, just having them see your plan is very cool. More questions?
Is there a new way to think about looking at a new career?
Yes. New way to think about looking at a new career. Good question. So if you are thinking about a career, a couple of thoughts. First off, I wrote a piece that's in the New York Times about 10 years ago called The Restless Soul in the Bathroom Mirror. And it was about my career search. I got to a point at Nike where I was coming up on 15, and I realized I did not want to be there the rest of my life. I needed to get out and do something else. So I invented a way of trying to figure out what my next career was going to be. But I enlisted a lot of help in that. Ruth Luban wrote a great book about how to be a corporate refugee. It's no longer in print, but you can buy it used on Amazon. Letters to a Young Poet is amazing. I highly recommend doing that. Ruth, my career coach, recommended doing morning pages, which is a methodology that Julia Cameron invented. So in the back of Right Open Act, the Intentional Life Planning Workbook, there are a bunch of recommendations about career. There's also a book in there that I mentioned by a couple by the last name of Tiger, Tieger, who used the Myers-Briggs methodology to help people of certain personalities figure out careers. So take a look there. Other questions?
Can you share a goal that you have when you're over 80?
A goal you have when you're over 80. Good point. What I would say with that are a couple of things. I had one person who was in their 70s join our class, and he, once he looked at that first cut where you look at the year you're in and your death year, he said, oh my God, I have 3 potential lives ahead of me. So 80, we don't know how long we're going to live. Our bodies start to, in some cases, fall apart, or we need to do some different things to keep our bodies going, like different sorts of exercise or counseling. There's a great book called Younger Next Year, I highly recommend, about how to stay mentally active. With 80, so both of our moms are in their 80s. My mom, I think the pandemic has been very, very hard on her, but she's coming out of that now, and she is looking at adding. She turned to me the other day. She said, I am not ready to die. I want to keep living. And so she's adding some things to her life plan around travel. And at first she added one trip, which is coming up next month, but now she's going somewhere in July, and she's going somewhere else at the end of the year too. So she's got 3 trips coming up. And again, that whole thing with baby steps, it started to make some things happen for her. And we talk every morning about, what are some things that might be getting in her way. and I listen. So that's been useful that, have friends. And she's got a great, great network. She calls it her circle of friends that check in on her, they get together. She's going with a friend of hers tomorrow to Eugene, and her friend is driving. Other questions?
We've got a recommendation for a book called The 100-Year Life.
The 100-Year Life is a book recommendation. I'll look that up. There's some great ones out there. Debbie, who's on this call, recommended the book Rewirement, which is on my list to do. Melinda and I, by the way, hate the term retirement. We've struggled with that. We've named it all sorts of things: freedom, release, other things. But we think for us, retirement oftentimes has the old connotations from growing up in the 60s and 70s, that retirement means that, you're over the hill, or you're no longer working, no longer relevant. What we're trying to do now in this new phase of being in our 60s is really rewire our brain and rewire our lives. It's been very challenging, and it's taken time. I journal every day about it. We talk about it a lot, and I would say it's a work in progress. And I would say also, talking about friends, I ran into my friend Susan, who worked for a state agency, out to lunch at Higgins. And I said, "How are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, Lee, it's great." She said, "It took about a year, but she said about a year into it, I got it. And now I'm just thrilled that I've got a whole new life ahead of me." So again, I think looking at 80 plus, what are some things you might want to do? Are there ways you want to connect with people? Maybe go back to some of those value things that you're thinking about that are important in your life: people, family, nature. Are there some things there? Oh, that was one of the things that came out. The woman I talked about earlier, whose husband wouldn't partake, I think it was her, talked about, she wrote down some times earlier in her life where she felt some amazing things happen to her. And one of the things she wanted to feel again was the experience of going on an outward bound trip. She's like, I have never felt that again. And so that's a good question to go back and say, what were some things in your life that made you feel truly alive or challenged or emotional or spiritual, that you want to reconnect with? So I thought that was super duper cool. Other questions? Okay, so a couple concluding things. Tell people about this workbook and this methodology. We're going to definitely have this video on our website at some point, in some form or another. So stay tuned there. And then lastly, we have an e-newsletter you can sign up on our website. You can buy the workbook there. We're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, as well as YouTube. And I would just say we're so grateful, so excited to have had you all here tonight. You're wonderful. Go live, listen to Maud, L-I-V-E, live, create those locker room things in your life. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Wonderful having you. And Melinda, you want to wave? No, come wave. Okay. Not going to happen. All right. Bye, everybody.